That's a really brilliant thing. It's ukcitizen.org. I'll put the link in the description. It would be great to have you ladies back in a month or so's time to find out how things are going, if there's new information, and keep you posted. Assuming that you... If Only magazine, I don't know if you know it, great magazine, an insight into what's going on. I was reading about Biggleswick, which is a medium-sized town, right on the cusp between two counties. There's Bessex on one side and Goodfordshire on the other side. And Bessex is sort of just straddling the middle, near the airport there. Anyway, the point was the council seemed to have been pushing out a whole load of directives that the people of Biggleswick were a bit unhappy with. They were pushing forward these Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and in particular the 15-minute cities. And a number of people were slowly waking up to that because they'd seen these massive, great big plant pots being placed right in the middle of the road, which made it very awkward for people to go through. They didn't really want it. And then they'd heard that actually, in the future, very soon, if you did more than 100 journeys from one side of the town to the other side of the town, you were going to be fined. And in view of that, they had all these number plate recognition cameras going up, and people were going, wow, that's a bit much, isn't it? And soon they were saying, well, actually, you won't be able to have your petrol or diesel cars, you'll only be able to have electric cars. Although it seemed very peculiar because they weren't putting in many electric points anyway, and neither were they fixing the roads because the roads was full of potholes. And then on top of that, somebody else said, hang on a minute, isn't there a consultation going on at Biggleswick Park next to the campsite, where on the campsite you will no longer be able to bring in camper vans or mobile homes. So you won't be able to travel there in any kind of vehicle and stay overnight, or indeed travel around the country. And Biggleswick was going to be one of those towns that was going to be a test case for this, and the people thought, I'm not sure we like this is a bit much. So many of the people started to get together, and they went to the council, and they said to the council officers, they said, excuse me, we're not very happy about having all these cameras monitoring us and these great big plant pots in the way, and you know, we're paying our council tax, but we're not really paying to build the prison. We don't want to live like this is not what we want. And the councils were going, oh yes, no, don't worry about it, it's all there for your safety, it's all safe and effective, nothing to worry. And they basically were just ignoring the people. So the people got a little bit upset by this. They said, every time we make any kind of confrontation with the council, they just nod and smile, but nothing gets done. And we keep paying our council tax, and still they're putting up more cameras, and they seem to be having biometrics in all the shops, and also they're allowing great big corporations to have the shops, and all the independent shops seem to be railroaded. And also the prices of everything are going up with some sort of fuel crisis, the cost of living, and not only that, our taxes are continually increasing all the time. So the people of Biggleswick decided, you know what, this isn't good enough, we're not having this. They decided that grassroots was the key to sorting out the problem. So what they did is they decided, somebody and a number of people formed a little committee, and they said, we need to get the people together and have a meeting. And so very soon, all round Biggleswick were these posters advertising a meeting on a certain date. And on this date, it was saying we're going to have a meeting in Biggleswick Park, and they were going to let everybody come in and have a group discussion about what they think about it for their town. Well, of course, the councillors, they saw this and they thought, hang on a minute, what's going on? We can't have them making decisions on our behalf. We're the council. So they decided that when the date came, after all these posters had been shoved up and people were going, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, they decided to close the park because there was maintenance. Oh, sorry, we can't have you in that day. Maintenance, we've got to dig a new swimming pool, or we've got to sort of weed the pansies. We're closing all the entrances. You won't be able to come into Biggleswick Park. Sorry about it. But the little committee that had started this whole meeting in the park thing decided that's okay because we know a local farmer. And the local farmer had already had a directive from the government and endorsed by the Biggleswick Council that he was having to have to do this new precision breeding. And he wasn't very happy with that because he didn't want any GM crops. He wanted to do organically and he wanted to supply the locality. He'd been fed up with having to do monoculture and actually being almost squeezed off the land and pressured by new developers who wanted to put these cookie cutter type houses all over the land, and the people were going, oh, I don't know whether we want that because we haven't got the infrastructure, there's no roads. Are you going to build any schools? No. Are you going to have any more small independent shops? No. So the farmer was already incensed and didn't know what to do. So the farmer said, look, you're going to have this meeting on this particular date. Why don't you come onto my land? So the committee said, that's brilliant. So they then started to put up a whole new poster saying, this is where it's going to take place. And on the day, because nothing the council could do to stop them, on the day the people of Biggleswick all turned up in their masses. And it was nice, it was like a festival, like a fun day. There were all sorts of stalls, people selling books and bric-a-brac and all of this. There were nice cakes and scones and things like that. There was even a beer tent that would be open after the main meeting. And there was a large arena and everybody could gather round. People had brought their picnics, they had their gingham little that they could sit on, and they had their sandwiches and flasks, and somebody had provided a tannoy system, and then the little committee sat on a table in front of it, and they said, hello, hello, can you hear us, can you hear us? And everyone said yes, yes, and everybody gathered round. All the people of Biggleswick were encouraged to come along, and it was free, and they were having a jolly old time. So the chairman got up and he says, right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, have a listen to this. And he got some notes, and he was talking about the Agenda 21 and the Agenda 2030, and he was talking about the 15-minute cities and said, have you seen the cameras and the big plant pots, and do you know why they're here? Have you thought about it? Are you concerned? And a lot of people did know about it, but there were a lot of people who actually had no idea. They had such busy lives, they had no concept of what was coming down the line, and they were horrified. And this was sort of all verified by people around saying, oh, yeah, yeah, have you not seen the website? And they were showing them on the mobile phone, and there was footage of all these people and the WEF and all of that saying what was coming and how they were going to be eating bugs and they're manipulating everything and all of this. And we were going to watch you and you were all going to be enclosed in these areas. And the people started to sort of bristle, and they said, I'm not quite sure. Well, there were, of course, the members of the council were present at the meeting, being very worried and sort of watching from afar, thinking, hang on, this is looking a bit much. So then the chairman said, now I've explained what is coming down to you, and this is what the council seem to be hell-bent. We've been to the council, we've asked them not to do it, they don't seem to want to do it. We're paying our poll tax or our council tax, and they just still are ignoring us. Do you want, ladies and gentlemen, of all of you, do you want this to happen? Do you want the cameras, the big plant pots, the biometrics, the digital IDs? Do you want that all to happen in our little town? Do you want the campsites to be shut so people can't go into mobile phones? Do you not want to be able to have your car so you can travel around and do things and have a nice environment and all of those things? And the people started to go, no, I don't know, we don't really want this. So all those in favour of not having all of this Agenda 21, 2030 and all these 15-minute cities, put your hand up. And everyone put their hand up, without exception. There might have been a couple of people who didn't fully understand it or who were too busy tucking into a mince pie or whatever. But most people put their hands up and they're saying, great, okay. So we'll carry that unanimous that we, the people of Biggleswick, we don't want that. And everyone was going, absolutely, we don't want any of that sort of thing at all. So this was all carried. He said, now the thing is, you see, we can go back to the council and say all the people of Biggleswick don't want that, but you know what the council's going to do? They're just going to nod and smile and say, oh yes, that was a nice meeting you had, but unfortunately the powers that above have dictated this to us, there's nothing you can do. And the chairman said, but the thing is, there is something that we can do. After all, we're paying our taxes. It's our money that's funding all this. Actually, let's not pay our taxes to the council, who are saying there's nothing they can do and they're going to implement it anyway. Why don't we instead pay our taxes into a fund that we, a new council, would take over, and we will make sure that we look after what the things are that we want in this town rather than what the council want in this town. And everybody thought that was a brilliant idea. They were all saying, yes, absolutely. And not only that, he said, isn't it funny how the council tax is all negotiated behind the scenes and you don't know what you're paying for, and if you don't pay it, they're coming down on you like a ton of bricks. Let's get rid of that whole thing. Let's negotiate with each and every individual household the services that you want. How about that? So you may only want the bins and the lights. You may not want to pay for certain other things, and we could negotiate with that. And people were going, blimey, yeah, that sounds good, because if I haven't got a lot of money, I could probably take the rubbish down to the tip myself, or I don't need certain services, or this, that and the other. We want to pay a bit more for the roads and make sure the roads are actually working. We want to pay to get rid of those awful plant pots, and we want to pay to have those cameras removed. And so most people were sort of in agreement that actually, in and amongst themselves, those people, through a new committee, could actually run the town so much better than the councillors. So then the chairman said, fine, that's absolutely fantastic. He said, what I would like to do then is to get everybody to sign on a big, and he had a great big roll of wallpaper, that they're going to sign in a new committee which would be voted on. So this committee is going to be dissolved, a new committee would be set up. You could all vote for who you want to be on that committee, with the ethos that we've all decided here in this park that we don't want the 15-minute cities, we don't want the low traffic neighbourhood rubbish, we want to have that freedom to be able to walk about, not have cameras film us every minute, not have the digital IDs, not have to have biometrics, and the whole caboose. And that the councils, who seem impotent and unable to do anything, we're just going to say, you're irrelevant, you're no longer required, and we're not paying your wages. It was a fantastic article, and that seems to be what the big people of Biggleswick have actually now started to implement. And I thought, isn't that strange? If only other towns could get everybody together, people in the town could get together and make a decision for them, for their own people, rather than having this top-down sort of thing that the government tell the councils tell the people, and the people have to put up with it. And I thought, well, actually, of course, the people have the power, because they don't have to pay the councillors if they don't want everything. They have to just remember there's more of them than there are of the councillors and the government. And if people really want to rise up and do their own thing and have common sense and use common law or natural law to govern their land, then the power is really with them after all, isn't it? It's got nothing to do with the councillors and the small members of Parliament who don't seem to be able to do their job. And so I thought that's an interesting article. So if you get a copy of the If Only magazine, it's worth reading about Biggleswick, because it could be, just could be, an example of how we, the people, can take back control. Regularly, as you can imagine, so many emails coming in, people telling you stuff, and somebody told me about a consultation that our government is looking at the moment, and this is about campsites and camping. Apparently there's something like you can have a field and you can allow people to stay on that field for 29 days in a year before you have to have a special licence or something. Anyway, apparently they're going to extend that to 60 days, which sounds very nice, particularly somebody like me who's got a camper van. Except that will only now limit people to having people with tents and not camper vans or mobile homes. So in other words, although you've got an extended period to have people on your land, the consultation is looking at basically getting rid of caravans and camper vans completely, because of course they don't want cars. Then I also watched a video that somebody sent me with this lovely lady, young lady, who was rather concerned because she had noticed that mysterious men in vans were turning up at roadsides, opening up manhole covers and putting some very strange devices into them. They didn't seem to be branded by any known company. The company that she did see, she said it doesn't, you can't find out who they are. And when she looked in the manhole, there was some very unusual devices. At first she thought they might be some bombs for a false flag event, because they were situated right next to gas mains, which sounds all very suspicious. Or, looking at the picture, maybe it's something to do with the new 5G network that's coming in. Either way, it just looked very suspicious. But it made me think, blimey, we're all looking around, looking into shadows and seeing something there. Maybe there is something there, and maybe there isn't. And I suddenly started to think, my God, we are in the age of the conspiracy, aren't we? And that made me think, blimey, there's so many conspiracies out there. What could I think of that has been told to us that may be true or may be false? And I made a bit of a list. So I thought, as a bit of a game on a Sunday, as we're doing this, let's see what's true and what's not true. Now, I have no idea, so you might have an idea and you can put them into the comments below, and it'd be fascinating to read what you think. So let's start with the number one, of course, is the Earth flat? Now, there's a lot of flat earthers out there who are absolutely convinced that if you get a spirit level here and you look through the bottom right there, you should be able to see the curvature of the Earth.
It is true, there is no 8 inches per mile square, but it doesn't mean it's flat.
I had an email
It's
actually
CIA
from somebody who said, are
terminology.
you ready for a flat earther on your channel? And he said, look, you know, I've got all this information about it and I want to spread it over to you. And he said, if the Earth is flat, imagine it's all like this, and Antarctica is all the way around the rim like this. And he said, but what if you pull out from there and there is another sea on the other side of the Antarctica? And what if there are continents where people live there and actually there's more and more? Is it a piece of paper that's flat like this, the flat Earth? Is it just a great big lump? How come there are other spheres in the sky? Loads of questions that you and I might ask. But is it a conspiracy? I don't know. Let me know. What about JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, shot in 1963? We know that happened, or at least we think we do. Some people were there and witnessed it, but was it done by somebody else, or was it done by the American government? That's the conspiracy. Is it? You know perhaps more than I do. What about the moon landings? Did that really happen? Did they spend all that money, all that time? Did they convince everybody that we landed on the moon just so that we could land, or at least the Americans could land before the Russians got there? Or was it all set up? Was it all set up with false this and false the other? I don't know. I'm not clever enough to work it out. But these are some of the conspiracies that have been put forward, and maybe it is a conspiracy, maybe it's not. Like, of course, the 9/11. In which aeroplanes hit the Twin Towers and blew them. Amazingly, how aeroplanes can knock these two Twin Towers, which does get you thinking, how is it possible if the aeroplanes hit the top of the building, the rest of the building would just collapse willy-nilly like that in such an amazing way, and also a building completely unassociated will collapse straight down into its own footprint, or in fact that an aeroplane can crash into the Pentagon and leave absolutely no reference to it whatsoever. It's very odd, but was it just an inside job by the government, the American government, to sort of confuse us and have another false flag so that we could go to war, or was it something that really happened? Who knows? And of course, the very big question we need to ask ourselves in the conspiracy world is Elvis still alive? Is he living up there on the moon with Hitler? Is Hitler still alive? That's another one. And Michael Jackson, they say that is still alive. And did Humpty Dumpty really fall off the wall and smash into a million pieces, where the horses and the king's horses and all the men couldn't put him back together again? We don't really know. However, bird flu, we've heard about that, bird flu. Birds do seem to get ill, don't they? Although you never see the corpses of birds on the floor, very rarely. Isn't it strange? And yet there's millions. There's more birds on this planet than humans, and yet so rare to see any corpses of the birds. Where do they disappear to? But will they get flu, and will it cause a pandemic? Can it somehow transmit to other animals and even ticks, so that going into the countryside is going to be a bit of a no-no? Don't go there, for God's sake. Stay in your little city where you will be encamped, where we can't let you ever go into the countryside. So that's another one. Is that going to be a pandemic? Is that a conspiracy? Who knows? What about that vaccine that we had recently that apparently some people say has been causing people some harm, blood clots and things like that, or they just drop down dead all of a sudden without any sort of notice. Is that really a conspiracy, just something that's been dreamed up by nut jobs, or because the government don't seem to acknowledge it, MPs won't talk about it, it's all safe and effective, of course, the BBC won't reference it or anything like that, but go online and talk to other people who are supposedly experts, I don't know, maybe it is just a conspiracy, maybe it's all rubbish. Be interested in your comments on that, of course. What about the bugs that are going in the food? Oh, we've been told now that they're going to sort of crush up insects, all sorts of insects, mealworms and that sort of thing. And apparently in the Netherlands, you know, they've got rid of the farmers now. We don't want any farming going on. All we want is bug production and these massive, great big I can't remember what they're called now, tricorn cities or some sort of try-something city. Try it out for yourself if you like. Have a big city in a land that's actually at below sea level. Sounds a sensible idea to me. Are bugs going to be put into the foods? Is it already happening? Are they there? Is it nice? Is it tasty? Is it healthy? Apparently it's supposed to be healthy, but maybe that too is a conspiracy theory. I don't know. Look up into the sky. Chemtrails everywhere. Are they chemtrails or are they contrails? Or is it a con that they're trails or anything? Are the skies being filled with aluminium or aluminium, whatever these heavy metals or lightweight metals, whichever metals that get into the blood and affect the brain.
I have a lot going on, so doing these videos, I'm trying to figure some things out on the moon that are really important, and I'm forced to do it on my own. And the last couple of videos that I played with Richard, I have so much to say about both of them. The other one, the first one that he was talking to the those two ladies and everything like that. I'm thinking more and more. I don't know if he knows that he's a conspiracy straw man or not. I'm still trying to figure that out. If Richard actually knows that he is, it's seeming like that. But it's like everything that they bring up, it's not even debatable. It's already been proven. You know, here he is. He's now going to be bringing up. How the hell did this moon come off like that? Oh, from me shaking the table around. I don't know if it's turning. Yeah, it is. I'm gonna jump back on it and discuss all these things that I'm finding in the moon. And I'll also jump back on all these videos that I'm playing of him that I have to stand here and grit it and listen to this because I'm still doing the series to him. And I can't find anybody better to do a series to anyway. And I do like him. He seems like a nice guy. But I think he's part of the strawman agency type, because everything that he's talking about, you don't use their terminology, and I see a lot of people doing that. Maybe some of them are mistakenly doing that, but you cannot use their terminology for anything. The flat earth movement, that was their terminology. No one ever thought the earth was flat, so don't do that to ourselves. Don't take on those titles or labels. Not going to do anybody any good. It's just going to be a distraction and arguing. Because, yes, the flat earthers are right. There is no 8 inches per mile square because we don't live on a spinning wet pararocket ball. But to claim flat just because it was put out there, those words were put out there for us, and we pick them up and start using those words and those terms. No, because we know it's not flat. Because we can look around and see there's mountains, hills, valleys, oceans, big bowls that hold water, and all. We see all that. So therefore, don't use that terminology because that would be another lie. It's no good to replace one lie with another lie, you know. And and then he's talking about the mineral streets, calling them agency terminology, you know. No, nobody should be doing that. There should be no site called any of those things, whether it's geoengineering, aerosol spraying, nanoparticle dismounting, uh, chemtrails, condensation trails, exhaust fumes, ice crystals, whatever. Don't even bother with any of this shit. Make up your own words. We will know what you're talking about. We'll know. Don't worry. I'm calling them mineral streets. You don't have to use my terminology. But certainly don't call them what they're calling them.
Is that really something that's happening, or is that just another big myth? There's some people who say it's all a load of old rubbish, and other people say, well, actually, I've written some books on it, and I've studied it, and I've looked into the air quality, and I've seen that maybe it is something. So who knows? Is that another complete conspiracy theory? We are in the age of conspiracy theories, and we all like a good old conspiracy.
Yeah, because it keeps
what
everyone
about
distracted.
Diana, Princess Diana's death? Was she really just in an accident, rushing away from the...
No, because there are certain people that Princess Diana. You look at the Freemasonry, Illuminati-ish distractions. All right, what princess is going to be called Princess Di? Right, Princess Di. Her name was Diana. You don't change someone's name, especially a princess or a politician or someone famous, and change it, especially what the word die means. Die. So they were putting that in all the newspapers and the press. It was all over Princess Di. And then all of a sudden one day she's in a tunnel so nobody can see the actual accident. So did they go into the tunnel and then switch cars and she was never even killed in the first place is probably the most likely. She wanted to be done with the fame. She bought into the system. They were letting her out of the system. They don't have to kill you. You just have to go off and your image, you think everyone's so unique, but there's a million of each of us. There's so many of our images. Yes, there are little changes. There are little different size ears and little different skin tones and where you're living and all. But everyone has a twin, many of them. They're just not biological twins. Kennedy, oh, same thing. That was such a fuck show. The whole thing was faked. It was all garbage. But yeah, what are you gonna do? Argue with everybody about it? It's too late for all that shit. For the 7.8 billion zombie slaves who bought into this fucking shit, they're not gonna turn back. So that's what I'm trying to explain to people is that we all think the problem is up the ladder and it's that 1%. No, it's not. It's us. It's us. It's the 7.8 billion zombies who all decide to live this way.
A journalist in, I think it was 1997. All I know is it disrupted my television series at the time, children's television series, in which we had to have a missing week because everyone was talking about this terrible event that had happened. Or was it that she was actually bumped off on the side? Is that a conspiracy, or did that really happen? I'll let you be the judge of that. 5G. 5G, is this 5G thing really a sort of microwave on a stick that's going to be outside everybody's homes? Is it there really so that we can get films downloaded incredibly quick so we can sit in front of these massive great big screens and dumb ourselves down? Or is it more that it can keep us inside and control us and fry our brains? I don't know. Be interested to hear what you think about that. Is it a conspiracy? 15-minute cities. We keep hearing this term now, 15-minute cities. Is that just a load of old nonsense? Is it really not just that they want to lower the traffic and stop people going in their cars or going across the country or even having motorhomes and caravans on websites, or not on websites, on campsites? It'd be difficult to get one on a website, I grant you, but you do see pictures on websites of campervans, so maybe that is a thing. But is 15 minutes a restriction thing with cameras and things taking your license plate? Is that really going to happen? What do you think? I would be interested in your thoughts on this. Maybe we're just in the age of conspiracy and it's all a load of old rubbish and we should forget all of it. Net zero, is that really a thing? We have heard that from the government, mind you, so maybe it is, in which they want to get no carbon whatsoever. But if you get rid of carbon, is it true then that all life will just disappear? Maybe we are the carbon they want to get rid of. Or is that, yet again, another conspiracy theory that's just a complete load of old nonsense, based on the fact that there is this thing that we now, because the science is settled, of course, of global warming. The planet is warming up, assuming it is a planet and not just a plane, a flat Earth or whatever. Because I wonder if it's a flat Earth, can it possibly warm up in the same way that, anyway, it doesn't really matter. The fact is that there is this rumour, is there not, that the government's peddling that the planet is warming up because it's all our fault. It's always our fault, isn't it? It's always our fault. What have we done again? Oh, blimey, look at that. Went out, put my toaster on, that's warmed up the planet. Put my hairdryer on, it's warmed up the planet. Been using too many carbons, don't you know? Is it a myth? Maybe it is. Maybe it's just a load of old nonsense. I think it might be a load of old nonsense, but I want to know what you think. Mind you, the global warming, of course, that could possibly lead to the melting of the ice caps, yes, and then we'll have the tilt of the Earth. That's the other thing that people are talking about. Oh, the Earth is going to tilt and there's going to be another catastrophe, and when the poles shift, it's going to be terrible. Or we plunged into another ice age, or we'll be plunged into another burning age, depending on where you are on the sphere. Assuming it is a sphere, it might actually just be a flat plane, who knows. And what's underneath? Are other people also underneath that and thinking the same? What's on the other side? Could be like that, could be taken on holiday, nudge nudge, wink wink, you never know. What about these CMEs? These are another interesting things, the coronal mass ejection. You've got to be careful how you say that, just in case you get it wrong. And that's where the solar flares and the magnetic forces from the sun, our nearest star, is going to wipe us all out. Apparently, it happened in the 1858, I think it was, something like that, the Carrington event, where it knocked out the grid and all that. Well, they didn't have a grid, actually, so it didn't knock that out. But if it happened now, it would knock out our computers, our mobile phones, our banking systems, our water, our food production, everything. We would be back going into the cavemen era, because we'd have to suffer right from all of the start with candles and wood-burning stoves. I wouldn't mind that myself, personally. I like candles and wood-burning stoves. But a lot of people aren't prepared like that, because obviously the government wants to get rid of the wood-burning stoves because of the old global warming. But that's, is that another conspiracy? Because it seems to be that that could be a conspiracy just to make us all frightened again. Digital IDs. Oh my goodness, we've heard about this, have we not? They've done a consultation. It's not come out yet, I think.
Let's just simplify it, Richard. Let's just make it really easy for everyone. Everything you've ever heard, learned, thought, taught, programmed has been a lie. Not a conspiracy, a lie. It's just all been a lie. Everything. Everything you've ever heard, learned, thought, taught, programmed. Keep it very simple. Then you don't have to go through all this bickering back and forth about shit that's been going on for hundreds of years, and you're pretending like it's going to happen someday. 15-minute cities, it's all done. You're talking about digital IDs and all this shit, and we're upset about the... Well, we were putting our digital IDs on our driver's licenses along with our social security information and driving information, and paying the same taxes on all these things that, you know, you think you're going to stop paying the council members and that's going to be counted as road taxes. No, it's a separate tax. You have your road taxes, then you have your excise taxes, right? You can pay excise tax, which is another year's tax. Then you got your property taxes of the town you live in, that's supposed to go towards roads and lights and cameras and all that kind of shit. So there's, what are you going to stop paying all those taxes as well? Well, then that goes back to what I'm saying. Everything you've ever heard, learned, thought, taught, programmed has been a lie. So there's no need to keep bickering about all these other lies that you're saying that are, because that's making you a liar as well. That's what it's doing. And you and these very nice people who I'm going to put on your series, I'll add them to your series in the next few days as I have time. But, you know, they're nice people and everything like that, but they're not going to get anywhere with it. Just distracting yourselves and everyone else, and giving them a reason, you know, to be distracted. And that's exactly what the 7.8 billion zombies, us, we, that's exactly what we want. We pay our governments and our politicians and our actors and actresses and musicians and whoever and people like yourself, we want to pay you to distract us from reality, because no one wants reality. We all want to stay in our comatose state, and that's very easy to do when you're just taking all your information from, you go to school, right? Everybody goes to school and learns all the lies, and their parents teach them the lies, the Bibles, the religions, all teach them all the lies, and then they go on and keep doing this over and over again. I'm watching it go on all around me. It's amazing that I'm able to keep even a bit of sanity in it, but I know that's part of the trick, and they get you to act like a crazy person. And what is a crazy person? Well, in today's day and age, anybody that doesn't go along with all the lies, right? So they could be anybody. So I got to watch this on a daily basis with people I love and in my family and friends. Nothing I can do about it because of you people like yourself. 7.8 billion of us, zombie slaves, that want to be distracted by reality.
The system is...
From reality. Because the reality is all around us. I'm trying to show it to you all. And nobody's going and looking. It's amazing to me.
It's all operational. I think it's coming in October. It is, of course, going to be voluntary until the next Parliament, in which we get the...
I found the timelines and figured out a lot of the timelines that are in the moon. I'm figuring out a lot of this shit on my own, just from visually watching my own videos back. It's always been this way since I started doing this. And
but will you be able to access the internet?
I don't know what the fuck, man, where everybody is.
You may not be able to access anything digital, which means that you might not be able to access your banks. Oh, blimey. So is that a conspiracy? Is it all a bit overloaded? Is it really there for our convenience? Is it really very nice and safe? Who knows? You never know. Mind you, if it is, we get into that digital realm of things like the central bank digital currencies. Not heard of that? Where the central bank now is going to have a digital currency, all our cash and all our savings are going to be magically put into this new currency, and there's nothing you can do about it, apparently.
Right, but these 7.8 billion zombies, a good portion of them think that it's just no different than having a debit card. There's the older groups, the older people. They just think, oh well, we've already had debit cards and credit cards for all these years. What's the big deal? So we won't have cash anymore. They do not realize, neither do you, and you're not even pointing it out, all the little things that will be missed when we don't have cash anymore. But the thing is that it's been going on for a long, long time. We're not just now going over to digital currency. It's already there. Nothing gets paid for with cash anymore. I'm the only one that's still paying for cash for shit. Very few people are using cash. The things that we are using cash for, think about it. We're going to really miss those. The lemonade stands, the tag sales, the flea markets, and things like simple people like myself will miss those things. Anytime you go to a car show or anything like that, what are you going to pay the vendors with? All the vendors now are going to have these cash reading machines. You don't know how much, it's going to be a nightmare. But the thing is, it's already been that way for a long time. So it's not going to be much different. Everybody whips their phone out to pay for everything nowadays. They all pay for everything. And when I'm in line at the supermarket, everybody's paying with debit cards or their phone. No, I don't see. I'm the only one using cash.
Apparently, nothing you can do about it. You could write to your banks and say, oi, do you know what? I don't want you to convert my money into that. And they'll say, well, it's beyond our control. I'm afraid we're all puppets being held by strings by our masters above us. So maybe that is all a conspiracy. Maybe it won't happen that we go to digital currency. Maybe we will. Maybe it won't have some sort of social credit that if you put the wrong thing on Facebook, then suddenly you'll have your money evaporated away. You won't be able to buy anything. Or if you want to travel a bit further than they like you to travel, it's all part of the master plan, apparently, according to Stanley Johnson. Yes, it's all part of the plan, but you won't be able to travel as much as you like because they'll control you with the social credits connected to your central bank digital currency. But maybe that's just a conspiracy theory. Maybe that's a load of nonsense. You let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to know. Oh, Bitcoin, here we go, and the cryptocurrency, which is all very cryptic to me. Is it the saviour of everything? Is it the thing that the WEF and the WHO and all the bankers and what have you can't control because it's something on the blockchain, which sounds like something to do with your pipes in the lavatory? Is that what it is? Is Bitcoin the saviour? And yet there's BTC, which is either good or it's bad, and then there's BSV, Bitcoin, which is either good and it's bad. And no matter who you talk to, they'll tell you the other one is the good one, or the other one is a bad one, or maybe one of them is a shill. There's a word I didn't really know until I started talking about the conspiracy theories. Yes, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but maybe you won't even be able to get to your Bitcoin if you've got a digital ID and you can't get on the internet. So maybe that's a complete load of waste of time anyway. I don't know. Answers in the comments. Be interested to hear what you think. Biometrics. Are there supermarkets and everywhere you go recording your image so that you can be identified wherever you happen to go and be tracked and traced by some big central computer? Every time you buy some vegetables, they'll know. Will that be linked to your central bank digital currency so they know where you are and what you're about to buy at any one time and then be able to control it? Will that really happen? Is that a big conspiracy? You tell me. And will we have the end of cash? Cash, of course, is king. I was sent a whole load of buttons. I was supposed to be wearing one. I completely forgot. Sorry about that, Brian. But Will we see the end of cash? Will that be completely disappeared? Or will we revolt against the central bank digital currency and come up with something else based on, I don't know, a precious metal of some description? Or, of course, will it be some very
Well,
rare,
they made bartering illegal, right? 50 years ago, they made bartering illegal. Yeah, they don't enforce it all the time, but they can if they want to, when they want to.
Pickled pepper, and he never picked anything else, poor bugger. What else have we got on here? Court systems, yes, couldn't read my own
Can't
writing.
barter
The court
labor,
systems.
nor
Are
can you
the
barter
court
items.
systems
You're not supposed to be
against
doing
us,
that.
you know,
Even
in which
tag
you have to
sales are
get
really
jurisdiction?
illegal
Are they
at this
there just to
point.
penalise
We
us
still
and
do
earn
them, and
money
you have
again
to
for the bankers
pull
through the
special
bar
permits in
guild?
order to
Is
have
it
a
all
tag
part
sale,
of
right?
canon law
You have to go
in
pull a
which it's
permit.
actually written there,
Then they
written
have certain
ages and ages and
allowances
years
on
and years
certain
ago
days
by the
that they'll
Vatican
allow you to
that
do it.
basically
Again, then it's not a
they're
right
the only
anymore,
rules
is
that
it?
you're allowed to have, but
You're
actually
only
they're there
allowed to if you get permission
police
to.
you about all to
They're
do
not
with
legal
admiralty
to have a
law and
tag sale
maritime
anymore.
law and all of that, so the court system is actually skewed against you with the 12 presumptions, and if you don't rebut them, then you're in big trouble. If you're not the executor of your own trust, you know, the trust that's been set up when you were born, your parents had you registered, you gave away the title to the little baby that they had, and now it's been owned by the state, and that was turned into a bond and floated on the stock market and is making the government and the bankers loads and loads of cash, but you don't know about it and you can't access the trust because you don't know actually you're the executor, the settler or the grantor of the trust in actual fact, and that you could grab that money or at least the interest of that money or whatever it is, and it's worth billions, but you can't have it because you have been surreptitiously taken advantage of, and you don't know the jurisdiction when you get into a court. Is that all a big conspiracy? Is that a complete myth? Is that a load of old nonsense? Maybe it is. Or what about King Charles? Is he really the king or is he the Antichrist? That's another of these things that are going round. Have the MPs actually sworn allegiance to King Charles III, or did they just swore allegiance to King Charles I? Just King Charles, you know, the one that lost his head. It's a very unfortunate name, really, for a king, is it not? But anyway, is he the Antichrist? Is he actually being pulled the strings of? What will he say on May the 6th? Will it be a good oath or a bad oath, or will we never really hear? And what's going to happen on May the 6th? May the 6th is coming up and he's going to be coronated, hopefully in some sort of like lemon drizzle fluid or whatever it is, probably anointed with some spiritual gum, who knows. But anyway, once that's happened and everyone's joyous, we've got a new king and he's got the crown, not that he owns the crown or the crown estate or any of those things, but anyway, that doesn't matter, and maybe that's a conspiracy theory as well. But as soon as that happens, is it likely that all of a sudden we're going to find that we're plunged into some terrible disaster, another false flag going to happen immediately after that's a prediction that I personally have, that after May the 6th, the king is crowned, there is going to be something disastrous. We'll all be up on a high and something rather dreadful is going to happen immediately after the coronation. I may be wrong, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, like all of these things. Are they conspiracies? It is the age, is it not, of the conspiracy theory, where there is so much lies and untruths, truths and fakery. What is going on? What is happening in this world? Have I made all of this up? And are you quite content to sort of just think, well, it's all a load of old rubbish, I'm just going to go down the pub and have a packet of crisps and a pint of something and not worry about the processed food that's killing us and on all of that? I'll be interested in your comments. There's a lot of conspiracies and I dare say I've missed a whole load, so add the rest in there and we can maybe ruffle about a little bit and see which is true and which isn't true, and oh, I don't know, maybe we just got to pull lottery out the hats and go, this one's true and that one's fake, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, or does it?
Yeah. The thing about it is that, yeah, the processed foods are terrible, no doubt, but we don't even know what the proper heavy metal and mineral makeup of what we should be eating, and our own proper heavy metal, mineral makeup. So therefore, the food has been a poison to the human population for a long time. The food, the real food, the natural food. Because remember, everything's been a lie. So when you look at the Adam and Eve story, Adam and Eve eating from the tree of life caused them supposedly a lot of problems. Well, that tree of life is actually the tree of death, because it's the bio realm. So when we were more electrical and becoming more and more bio, was after, I'm waiting to get interrupted. It was after the resets. It was after certain resets. And there was no vegetation. That's not what the original bill didn't include that. You can see that in the imagery. The imagery in there everywhere that I'm showing you in the True Creators work.
500,000 people a year, the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States. The average American spends more than $12,500 per year on personal health care, some $4 trillion annually. A citizen in France spends $5,468, in Canada $5,905, in Germany $7,382 for universal care. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development found that despite the high cost of U.S. health care, on nearly every critical ranking from life expectancy at birth and deaths from avoidable conditions, the U.S. consistently ranks at the bottom. 68,000 Americans die every year because they are uninsured or underinsured. This is because the U.S. healthcare system does not serve the public. It serves the medical, insurance, and drug companies whose lobbyists gut regulations and block healthcare reform. In 2020, the CEOs of 178 major healthcare companies collectively made $3.2 billion in total compensation. That was up 31% from 2019, all in the midst of the pandemic. According to Axios, in 2020, the CEO of Cigna took home $79 million. The CEO of Centene made $59 million. The CEO of United Health Group received $42 million in total compensation. The CEO of Moderna got a $926 million golden parachute after his company received $2.5 billion in taxpayer dollars from the Trump administration to develop its COVID vaccine. These huge profits were being made when over 330,000 Americans died during the pandemic because they could not afford to go to a doctor on time. Joining me to discuss the debacle that is the U.S. healthcare system is Dr. Margaret Flowers, an advisor to the Board of Physicians for a national health program and one of the country's most prominent advocates for single-payer health insurance. Margaret, let's begin with how we got here. There was a proposal several decades ago, I believe it was under the Truman administration, I can't remember, for single payer. That got stopped, and then bring us up to where we are today.
Right. I mean, there's actually been a movement for a national health insurance for more than 100 years now in the United States, but
Yeah,
and
it was
David Barton
terrible.
Smith writes beautifully about this.
It was a